What's going on, everybody? Sugar and Spice Topics. Well, I wanted to talk about something that is showing progress in our country. There are so many inmates. I have a brother in jail that's given up to 30 years in prison. He has not murdered anybody. No real offense. And the man is being held because of stacked charges. And that's why I'm an advocate for Kim Kardashian. No matter what anybody says, you cannot convince somebody like me. I get the information for myself. I don't let anybody influence my decision on who I like, who I vouch for, or nothing. I look at what they do, the works they do, and I forgive mistakes that are minor and minute. I look at the fact that Kim Kardashian is all about prison reform. She really wants to change the status of this country as it relates to people in prison for just minor crimes. Although there is no known interaction between Kim Kardashian and Oklahoma and what's going on, I did want to read this article of showing progress in our country. We have inmates in our country that we're paying for them to be in jail when they reformed about 10, 20 years ago. They sitting, they're missing their families, they're not raising their children, they don't have a second chance in life. And when they get out of jail, the biggest factor we all face is that they don't have the right job opportunities. I want to not only have this happen in Oklahoma, but I want it to happen where I'm from. I want it to happen where you're from. Because again, people are in jail for 30 years for stacked charges. So they breaking down, give them 10 years for this, 10 years for that, 10 years for this. Like every alphabet, when they don't really deserve that. They should be given the time allotted, and that's it. So let's take a look at this article that I'm so glad that these people have another chance in life. More than 400 inmates across Oklahoma were being released from prison Monday in what the governor's office calls the largest single-day mass commutation in the nation's history. The Oklahoma Pardon and Parole Board approved the commutations Friday and forwarded them to Governor Kevin Stitt, a former mortgage company CEO who was elected in 2018. The board voted unanimously to recommend that the sentences of 527 state inmates be commuted, with 462 of those inmates slated to walk away out of prison Monday and 65 others being held on detainer. With this vote, we are fulfilling the will of Oklahomans, State Bickley, executive director of the board, said in a statement Friday. However, from day one, the goal of this project has been more than just the release of low-level nonviolent offenders, but the successful re-entry of these individuals back into society. Stitt, a Republican, has advocated for criminal justice reform, pledging to move away from policies that have made Oklahoma the state with the highest incarceration rate in the country. At a news conference Friday, Stitt hailed the decision to give hundreds of Oklahomans a second chance. People applauded after the Pardon and Parole Board read the names of 527 Oklahoma inmates recommended for commutation at the Cape Bernard Correctional Center in Oklahoma City on November 1st, 2019. Oklahoma will release more than 400 inmates after a state panel approved what they say is the largest single-day mass commutation in U.S. history. This marks an important milestone of Oklahomans wanting to focus the state's efforts on helping those with nonviolent offense achieve better outcomes in life, Stitt said in a statement Monday. The historic commutation of individuals in Oklahoma's prisons is only possible because our state agencies, elected officials, and partnering organizations put aside politics and work together to move the needle, he added. Oklahoma voters approved a state question in 2016 that changed simple drug possession and low-level property crimes from felonies to misdemeanors. Stitt signed a bill this year for that retroactively adjusted those sentences, approving a fast-track commutation docket for those who met the criteria. The governor stood outside in an all-women's prison in the city of Taft on Monday afternoon, shaking hands with an estimated 70 women as they filed out of the Dr. Eddie Warrior Correctional Center. In the emotional scene, former inmates could be seen embracing family and friends, with some breaking down crying as they saw their children. So that is outstanding, and this is the type of progress I need for my own brother. This is what I need for all people that's locked up and that's being done and unjust. So there is another story I wanted to hit on, and Kim Kardashian is involved. This is where we get progress, and that's why we're having this discussion. Let me read y'all an article about a woman, a black woman, that set up some acts and also worked and linked with Kim Kardashian. However, Kim was getting a lot of criticism from people because they said, not Kim, but they said that she was getting too much attention and she's not a lawyer. Well, we know that. So she actually partially funded some different programs in order to get these people freed. I wanted to give her the props because that's what I do. Give props to where props should be given, and read y'all this article. She freed 17 prisoners facing life with the help of Kim Kardashian. It's the number that Brittany Barnett will never forget. 1374671. 7 digits assigned to her mother after she was arrested on a felony charge of assault and bail jumping related to her crack cocaine addiction. The experience hit home as Barnett later changed career tracks, leaving accounting behind to study law at Southern Methodist University in Texas, a state that incarcerates more people than any other in the country. But since then, the former corporate lawyer has done more than she could have imagined for the plight of prisoners like her mom. This spring, Barnett helped secure the release of 17 federal prisoners in 90 days under the newly passed First Step Act, a feature that drew national headlines because it was partially funded by Kim Kardashian West. It was the culmination of what she started in 2017 with the Buried Alive Project, a nonprofit working to eliminate life without parole sentences. Life without parole is the second most severe penalty permitted by law in America, and we're imposing this sentence on people with drug offenses, and we're. It's mind-blowing to me, Barnett says. Reform to me is a fix. What we need is a fundamental shift to transform the system. Barnett has just finished a training event on compassionate release where sick, elderly, or disabled prisoners are set free early. For lawyers at the Washington, D.C. offices of lobbying giant Akin Gump with the Texas native lets her roots show. With a slight draw, the 35-year-old spells out Bogota, the 1,200-person town she grew up in where the Rivercrest Rebels play high school football under Confederate battle flag. I can honestly say that growing up, I didn't experience much racism, she says. Instead, it showed up in less obvious ways, such as childhood friend who got a life sentence for drugs when he was 23 years old. We thought, geez, this is just East Texas. What I didn't know is that he wasn't in a normally. The street sweet tea and trap music lovers' goal today is to dredge up pro bono lawyers who are willing to work with some of the 1,600 people in the federal justice system who are serving life for drugs. Just getting that number was difficult enough. The Department of Justice wasn't keen to share the information, Barnett says, and so her Buried Alive project team had to piece together the records themselves. If you don't have a good counsel, it turns what is a difficult flight into one that is impossible. So the work she is doing is so important just to ensure we have a fair and just system, says David Saffarin, Deputy Director of the Center for Criminal Justice Reform at the American Conservative Union. The First Step Act is expected to lead the release of more than 2,200 prisoners locked up for nonviolent drug crimes. But for many critics, it didn't go far. While it eliminated so-called stack sentences or future defendants, it didn't reverse them retroactively for current system, meaning some people are serving up to 55 years. I just wanted to show that there's a lot of progress in Barnett. She was actually the founders of that project where Kim Kardashian was, well, let's say people were talking about her, saying that she is just trying to take the credit, this and that. And some of y'all still think that. But Barnett, she in that article, which I didn't finish because it was extremely long, she said that she had to have Kim's back, saying everybody knows Kim is not a lawyer. Everybody knows she's not going to argue anything. She helped, though. She funded, used her money to help. So I just, again, wanted to show the progress where people are being released from prison because they're serving time for stuff they don't even need to serve time for. They already served their time. And thank God for people like Barnett and also the Oklahomian situation. I just thought that some people might find that interesting, that have loved ones that's locked up and that's been locked up and they don't feel any hope. There is hope. Contact, I guess you can Google the First Step Act as well as other names in this article to find out how you can get that type of help. Trust and believe I am. Because again, there is hope. There are laws being changed. People are in prison, behind laws that were already changed. This is hope for you and your family. Thank you for listening.